Hey everybody, welcome back. Last week we said Revelation isn't a code to crack, it's a message of hope. Today we're going to look at something John discovered on a lonely island, that God really is all-sufficient. Let me start with a quick question. Do you think we're living in the last days? Some of you would probably say, well, yeah, of course. Some would say, no. Some of you are already thinking, here we go again. But here's what the Bible actually says. In Acts chapter 2, Peter stands up on the day of Pentecost and quotes the prophet Joel. He says, "In the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all people." Now that happened 2,000 years ago, which means the last days have been going on for 2,000 years. So the real issue isn't when do they end, the real issue is, are we living ready? Now that brings us to John. When he wrote Revelation, he wasn't standing in front of a big crowd, he wasn't leading a thriving church, he was in exile, 90 years old, stuck on a rock in the middle of the sea, the island of Patmos. Everything he loved was gone, his ministry, his friends, his church community, and that's what Patmos represents. Patmos is the place of disappointment. It's the place of isolation. It's the place where you wonder if God still sees you. All of us hit Patmos sooner or later. For some, it's sickness. For some, it's anxiety. For some, it's heartbreak or loss. And usually our prayer is, God, get me out of here. But that's not what God did for John. Revelation chapter 1 verse 10 says, "It was the Lord's day and I was worshipping in the Spirit. Suddenly, I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet." God didn't take John off the island. God showed up on the island. And that's when John discovered that God is enough. So what does John actually see? He gives us this wild, symbolic portrait of Jesus. And remember, he's not describing his physical looks, he's describing his character. The first thing John notices is his hair, white like wool, white like snow. Now, in our world, we think of, white hair as weakness, as getting old. But in the Bible, white hair means wisdom. John is saying, this Jesus, he's the Ancient of Days. He's seen it all. He knows the beginning and the end. He's not surprised by anything in your life. And that's good news, because James chapter 1 says, if you lack wisdom, you can ask him and he'll give it to you. Then John says his eyes were like fire. Have you ever had somebody look at you and you just knew they could see right through you? That's what John's talking about. Jesus' eyes aren't just watching, they're refining. Fire purifies. His eyes burn away the junk and call us into holiness. Then there are his feet. John says they were like bronze, glowing in a furnace. Now that's solid, that's strength. Not like the kingdoms of this world. They all have feet of clay, shaky foundations that eventually crumble. But Jesus is unshakable. When you stand on him, you're standing on the only ground that won't give way. Next, John hears his voice, and it sounds like crashing ocean waves. Now, have you ever stood on the beach when the surf is pounding? You can't even talk over it. You can't drown out that sound. That's the authority of Jesus' voice. He rules over kings and rulers, presidents and powers, and he also wants to rule in your life. And then John notices his right hand. In it, 7 stars. In Scripture, the right hand is the place of strength and safety. And what John is seeing is that even when the church is suffering, even when believers are persecuted, they are held securely in Jesus' hand. And the same is true for you. Finally, John looks up and he sees his face shining like the sun, blinding brilliance, absolute holiness. And John falls on his face like a dead man. But what happens next? Jesus reaches down, touches him and says, "Don't be afraid. It's me. I was dead, but now I'm alive forevermore. And I hold the keys of death and the grave. What a moment. The holy God of the universe bends down, touches John, and says, "Don't be afraid, it's me." See, John thought his story was over, old, exiled, forgotten. But Jesus said, "No, John, grab a pen. You've still got a book to write." Maybe that's what Jesus wants to say to you. Your Patmos isn't the end of your story. Whatever your disappointment looks like, God is enough, and He still has work for you to do. And with that, I want to hand it back to your group host, who will guide you into some discussion to help you process these truths together.